Hello and welcome to Postscript World on Fire. This is Season 1, Episode 7. I'm Fred Vigeant along with Matt Wilson. Hey, Matt.
Hi, Fred. How are you?
I'm doing well. This is just to get it in one more time, this is the episode following the penultimate episode, or as the kids say, the finale of Season 1.
It's a good word. Yep. What a strange season finale.
Yeah, it was eventful, but it was kind of uneventful. I feel like the end was uneventful.
Yeah, often you'll see cliffhangers in sort of season wrap-ups. Get you looking forward to the next one. And this one fell a little short for me.
Yeah, I was trying to put myself in the context of when it originally aired in the spring of 2020. I remember getting a lot of feedback from viewers saying, when is this coming back? And it's shocking. I mean, it's not shocking. We know why. For reasons beyond anyone's control. The pandemic really slammed the brakes on the production. And as you could probably tell from watching this season, there is a lot that goes into this. And I'm sure if they have to retake some things that require blowing things up, that probably takes a bit of time to blow something up and then put it back together just to blow it up again. So between that and COVID and getting all the actors and actresses on the schedule to do it again for season 2, which we will be appreciating very soon. It just seemed, so with all that said, it just seemed like, it was a cliffhanger, but it wasn't like I was, it certainly wasn't chewing on my teeth. I wasn't on the edge of my seat. I was just like, oh, yeah, okay, they're running through the woods and there's guns going off because there's always guns going off. And then credit roll. Yep,
humble opinion for what it's worth. Didn't quite work for me, but we'll talk through some of that. Should we play Name That Episode?
Sure, it's been a while.
Name that episode.
I'll do a device I've done before, which is where did Tom go?
Where's Tom?
Where in the world is Tom? That's one of the takeaways I had was
we don't see him this episode.
Yeah, it's
in Spain somewhere.
He's in Spain somewhere, but it's. I know there's a lot of characters and they try to rotate through all of them, but it's weird how it's just sometimes you just don't see them.
That has been, to me, the crux of this series so far. There are a lot of characters. There's a handful of locations as well, which is not usually a problem. One of my recurring minor frustrations is how they go overboard on linking the characters through abstract family relationships or chance encounters and things. And I know you kind of have to do that to try to piece the different scenes and sub-stories together to some way. But often it was just a little stretch too far.
I kind of groaned when Harry, he's on this top secret mission. There was all this buildup in episode 6, and so then he got his affairs in order, which we'll get to separately, of course. But so he's there, and he deals with encountering some Nazis, takes care of them, and then finds this shed or whatever it is that he's supposed to go to, and then so he gets there, and then the Cassia comes around that corner. All I did was groan. I was like, oh, of course. And then I was like, it's a TV show.
Yeah, extract a key group of freedom fighters or resistance fighters. That's what he was told back in England. So
of course it's Cassia.
Right. So somehow her little mission of picking off one guy at a time became this key freedom fighter thing. But it was meant to happen, right?
It was meant to, right? TV.
Back to where they started.
Yeah.
The two were together in episode 1. We wondered if they would ever see each other again. Was not a shock. I did kind of chuckle a little bit, but not a shock to see.
See, and I figured that would be the cliffhanger. Like, they are so close to catching up to each other, but we don't see it.
Would have been a much better.
That I thought would have. I would have. That would have.
Call us.
Yeah.
Come on.
Start writing. Right. No.
Sorry.
No. But so they get together. Cassia, Harry's, I'm sure, very delighted to see her. And I guess she is as well, but she certainly notes how she is a changed woman.
Yeah, I think she is too. I think any memory of the past, any sense of peace. But yeah, she speaks well of the old Cassia being dead. The war has changed her.
Mm-hmm.
She talks of the choices she made, and she believes they're the right choices, but the cost of those choices was the person she used to be.
Right, and we see that come through in other characters, being shell-shocked or just dealing with the trauma of death and destruction all around them. So this is a lot of weight that she's going to be carrying for probably the rest of her life.
Yeah. And Harry takes it in well, I think. Before they kind of get separated on the hillside, he tells her, okay, I get all that. So forget the old selves. Let's just do this to get you out of here, get you back to Jan. Just some sense of, in homage to what we were. But there isn't a whole lot of effort from him to push her on the romance side. It's like, let's just get out of here.
Well, yeah, they're in a war zone, right? Now's not the time or place. But I got the facial feature of Harry, or the look that it was like, I came all the way back to find you, and you're like, yeah, I'm a different woman now.
Yeah, I don't think he knew it'd be her, right? I mean, maybe
I hope
he
not.
had an idea of, while I'm here, I'll go try to find her. But I'm gonna guess he was as surprised to see her show up there than anybody. So,
and I just we'll move on in a moment here, but the way the camera kept flipping back to that truck, I was like, this is not right. Something is in the back of that truck, and then so that's how the episode ends.
Yep.
So where do you want to backtrack?
So the other groups I thought would be interesting to talk about. Nancy has a fairly strong thread throughout this episode, and then the whole Lois, Douglas, Vernon, baby girl scenario I thought was sort of interesting a little bit too. But let's talk Nancy a little bit.
Okay.
So we learn a little bit more about her. We see
She's got a son.
Of her. She has a son.
Yeah.
Who I don't think we've met as a character yet, but who knows? Maybe we actually have. It'd be the next little tangled weave. But she has an opportunity, I say opportunity is the wrong word. She finds herself sharing with Webster a bit of her history, in the vein of defending to him of her efforts on behalf of Webster and Albert, and that she took not great offense, but she really wanted to resist the idea that she hadn't tried enough. She related back through her own experience of being sexually assaulted on a job in the work field in Portugal earlier in her career, and then being faced again with that threat through this jerk guy from Germany, her handler.
Her censor.
Yeah, her censor. She used the term handler, but you're absolutely right. Censor is an actually better term. Resists that strongly, puts a steak knife to a sensitive area to get him to back off, knows that's not going to pan out well for her. She says she may not have a job to go back to. She knows things are going to be different. But yeah, with all of that we learned about her, we saw her stand up for herself, certainly, trying to stand up for Albert as well. Did not take well in that brief conversation of Webster challenged her on, why didn't you do more?
Yeah, I mean, I think he came around. I think the emotions just got the better of him. What a slime ball. I can't remember what the guy's name is, but it doesn't matter. He's a jerk.
Is it Siebert? I don't know.
But I mean, I suppose he feels gutsy. They're in this fancy restaurant surrounded by a bunch of German troops. So he's like, I can probably do whatever the heck I want now.
Yeah, no, he knows it. He's right. And we see a different side of Nancy earlier in the episode back in Germany. So she's at the Rossler funeral. And
Klaus comes home.
There. Yeah, Klaus got pulled back from the front, I guess. And she really has a neat conversation with him. He expresses all kinds of remorse and guilt about being part of the war effort and not agreeing with it at all, seeing what happened to his family.
Kind of confirming what we've thought earlier.
We had suspicion that he saw things differently, and certainly the personal aspect of it now probably makes it feel much more worse for him. She tries to comfort him a little bit, all you can do is what you can do. But, strong sense of Klaus of realizing what he's inadvertently become part of, and just a lot of survivor guilt and guilt by association. Feel bad for the guy. Yeah.
I do. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure feels very helpless, and mother and sister are now deceased. That's difficult.
Yeah. So, I think the last group then, or the next biggest group to talk about, is just going back to the whole Lois, Douglas,
Robina,
Vernon. So the Manchester crowd, I guess we'll call them, although I'm sure the airbase that Lois visits, well, he does show up at the house. So they're all there somewhere. Interesting little, won't call it a love triangle necessarily, but this to me is about Robina representing like the old way of thought, the old way of life. Lois, especially in the family connections with Douglas, kind of the new way. So the class structures, the high and mighty kind of structures of society, maybe, old England, a thing of the past. Who knows? This isn't necessarily a show about that, but we definitely see Lois struggling to come to grips. No, Robina struggling to come to grips about the new way of life for the kids these days. And Lois sticks up for herself really well. She's very clear with everybody, Harry and Robina, that she's not there for money. She's not there for support. She knows what she wants to do. She would be open to connections to some degree. But there is a moment where Robina does come to visit the baby. And it's a comedic moment at times.
Yes,
You want to hold the baby for what? But Robina does offer Lois an envelope of money, we assume, and Lois takes it. And the conversation is about, conscious versus common sense. And Robina just kind of being like, look, we can have philosophical debates, we can have discussions about this, that, and the other thing. Let me just help you with this.
Right. I think it's a nod that Robina understands that Lois isn't coming around looking for money. Right. And Robina's just saying, look, okay, that's great, and I probably appreciate that, but here, I'm trying to just take the high road and help support the baby.
Right. Now, Lois is a little suspicious at first. She takes it as a form of bribery, so to speak, because there's a small conversation about Jan in particular trying to keep the news from him that his sister's husband also has a baby with a different. It's the whole complicated thing, right? Jan seems like he's doing okay.
Speaking English.
English is really well. I do like. Well, we'll hold that thought. I don't want to tangent off away because the whole Lois Vernon storyline I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, I mean Lois. I think kind of again staying on that track of. I can handle this myself, and more power to her if that's the route she wants to go, of course. But and I think she initially goes to seek him out to say, thanks for the offer, but I'd like to stay connected with you, but otherwise I'm going to do my own thing. But I think in the heat of the moment, it almost seemed like he wasn't coming back. Somehow finds a bike and makes his way back to the airbase.
He's indestructible.
And I think that really captures the moment there.
Their first meeting, Lois is really insightful, introspective. She says, look, it'd be so easy for me right now. I'm weak, I'm lonely, I'm tired. It'd be just so easy to say, yes, come help me.
Right.
But she didn't want to make that decision in that mental state.
Right.
I think she wanted to buy herself some time. And some time passes, and she put some thought into it, apparently, or was just moved by the thought of maybe not having Vernon around, because there's that moment where everybody thinks he might have been shot down. And maybe there was that thought of, I'm actually sad about the idea of him not being around, so maybe that means something,
She got all the feels.
Yes. Yeah, she finally accepts his courting. Seems like a good guy. We don't know much about him. He's thoughtful. He
stands up for her.
He does. He says some interesting things. He says, I don't even need you to love me. Just let me love you. Like, let me help you. And we'll see where this goes. Obviously there's some risk of being a military pilot and leading up to what's hinted at the very start of the episode, the start of the Battle of Britain, where we think that Germany will begin the push across the channel to England, which, spoiler, does not go very well for them. Tanks don't fly or swim real well.
No, surprisingly.
But yeah, for now at least, there is an accepted proposal of marriage, a surrogate father for the child, and all seems maybe on the mend or on the upswing.
Yeah, the baby's happy and healthy from what we can tell, and that's exciting.
Yeah. Mixed into this, of course, is Douglas, who we still like. I still like. I think he's
what's not to like?
Most likable characters in the show for different reasons. We learn a little bit more about him and his background. He takes so. I only watched the episode once, but I was trying to piece back through how this letter comes to Jan. Because there's a letter addressed to Jan that gets to Robina's house, and somehow the letter says that Gregor's is here at what they describe as a lunatic asylum.
Right.
And Jan was registered, I guess, in a refugee program. So maybe somehow Gregor's gave enough information to connect the two just by name, because he wouldn't have known address, he wouldn't have known anything.
Right. We're led to believe in at least the previous episode, if not in another circumstance, that Harry did file some paperwork.
Right.
Because that's how they circled back to him and wanted to airdrop him into Poland.
But however that happened, the two get connected, so paperwork arrives. Douglas offers to take Jan to this hospital to connect the two brothers again. Rubina says, I can't go there. And Douglas says, I wasn't going to ask you to. Like,
it's like...
it is the same clinic we learned that Douglas was at after the First War. He was treated. So this whole shell shock thing, I think we would probably consider it like post-traumatic stress disorder in today's terms. There is a whole conversation we could have about stigma around mental health and concerns about that.
It certainly wasn't treated the way or handled or was not done in that way. As it is now.
I feel like, and there's better folks out there to talk about this, but I feel like the science around this has progressed a lot
significantly
in the almost 100 years since. How we treat these things, how we talk about these things. But in the day, they had specialized hospitals for all kinds of patients of mental issues, and Gregor's is there. He's doing okay. Douglas talks to him a little bit. You said a minute ago, Douglas reaches out or makes contact inadvertently with his doctor from the time. Doctor did not remember him as much. Has a great little line. Doctor says to Douglas, "Can I help you?" And Douglas says, "You didn't help me last time. I doubt you could be any better now." Douglas obviously not fond of the experience, not looking back at it as a helpful experience at all, but has a conversation with Gregor's after he and Jan have a chance to connect again. And just talks him down a little bit, says, it'll get better.
Yeah.
Gregor says, daytime's okay, nighttime is a mess. I have nightmares, sleeping's tough. And Douglas remembers probably much of the same and just tries to say it will get better.
I do think the reunion of Jan and Gregor's is probably one of the nicer moments.
Actually
in the
made me
episode.
happy. Yeah, I smiled a little bit.
I was happier about that than I was Cassia and Harry, to be honest. Then when those two got back together, I kind of groaned. These two, I was like, this makes a lot of sense.
And Gregor's has been not a weird character to follow along with, but it's been tough to get a good read on him. We see him a little bit early, that disappears for a while, has that sort of traumatic scene trying to board the boat at Dunkirk, and then ends up here around Manchester. And I was just happy to see the two.
Yeah.
Albert's still stuck in camp. I don't know that he's coming back, but I'll jump on this. The scene with him and Webster ends with Albert basically saying, just stop trying to help me.
Yeah.
Don't come back.
Which I feel like that was addressed in the previous episode.
It was. Albert's been clear, I think. In the intention here, I think, started with Webster. I don't think it will work, and it will just make things worse. I don't think you can magically spring me from this armed prison, run by the Nazis. But it grew into more, I think, Albert's respect for everybody else in the camp with him. I think he has a line about loyalty to everybody else here.
Right.
But what was interesting, and this is leads me to a theme I've been kind of following along with through this first season, is the use of music throughout the show. And there were two. One cracked me up, and I'll talk about that one in a second. But the first one was a bit more somber. Albert has formed this sort of orchestra in the prison.
Right.
And there's a scene where they're actually playing a song called Boussoir, which translates to Beautiful Evening, by Debussy, who is a French composer, had been written a few decades before the show takes place. So them playing a French-written song, as sort of a nationalist strike back against the Nazis, who were in the audience, I believe, right? It was a show for them. But I thought that was a good selection of song choice. The other bit of music that floored me in this episode was Lois, and I've always enjoyed when Lois sings over other sort of aspects of the show or other scenes where the lyrics of the song are pertinent or relevant to it. So she's prepping to start this song, and I'm taking notes. I'm getting ready to write down the lyrics. And she goes to sing and just is hit with a contraction from the baby and just lets out this noise. Yeah. And it got me. I won't lie. And it was just such a set up expectations and then sweep the rug out from under. It was a really well written moment, and just cracked me up a little bit. So music has been great through the show. Again, the choice of songs, the lyrics tie into scenes, really enjoyed that as a nice aspect of what is otherwise a stressful show to watch at times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Less stressful this time. I mean, there were a couple moments, but
Yeah. So what is this show? Like we've finished up season 1, 7 episodes in, 6 more to come, I think, through season 2. But in essence, it's about World War II, but is it really? It doesn't feel like a war show.
Right. It's more, I think back to like history books or documentaries. It's very much focused on what a country did, as a complete unit. What Great Britain did, what France didn't do or did do, or how many tanks, blew up this, or how many planes fell out of the sky, all those kind of things. But it's not individualistic stories about people.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. When we read the history books, it gets abstracted out and sanitized to some degree. Germany invades Poland, but what does that really mean? It's not just they walked across a line and said, "Hey, we're here."
Right.
They had to fight their way in, and as we see again, invading armies are not the neighbor coming to visit. They are. It's brutal, and it's shown very well, very clearly, I should say, through the episodes of this season. So the war feels like a background character that shows up every now and then, but certainly we see the implications of the war, the impact of the war on a lot of families and characters that we've grown to care about. It does feel like there's a couple sub themes running. The one is maybe simplistic, but love versus hate.
Yeah.
You see it at a personal level. There's a lot of family connections we care about. We have Harry's not quite love triangle, but complicated situation. We see Lois and Vernon. We see Cassia trying to figure out her new needs and the old versus the new. Douglas and the love for his family and the care for everybody. And then obviously at the much higher level, just the whole fascist movement of that strong message of hate from how they treat people, how they view people that are different or imperfect, and then their plans to just rid the world of those people. You don't get much stronger than that, I think.
Right, and you're part of a machine. You're either part of it or you're not part of it.
There's a theme of old versus new, perhaps. Robina, again, maybe highlighting some of the old way of thought or old way of life that as liberalism starts to grow through the 1900s, maybe we see new decisions, new patterns, new ways of life springing out. And if this isn't a military war show or a military conflict show, it does creep up now and then, but it isn't always present. Maybe like a battle of hearts and minds might be a way of thinking about the conflict that's present here. You see this through propaganda, censorship. You see this through the conflict of family ties versus patriotism, and where do my loyalty lies? Who should I love? Who should I follow? And how people decide what and how to resist. The powers that be, whether that's in Germany, Poland, France. Yeah.
Right, and who to trust. And it really seems like when you take a step back, I mean, by the end of this season, no one trusts anyone to some degree. Just because, and it's not because an individual character may have caused distrust, but just because there's just so much destruction and violence all around. It's like, well, who can I tell something to? Someone,
Albert losing faith, maybe losing some trust in Webster.
Right.
Lois not quite trusting Harry and Harry and Robina, and Cassia. Do I even trust Harry? Is this where I want to go?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. All strong themes make for an interesting show. Are we brave enough to do any predictions for season 2? I have watched nothing. I haven't watched a trailer, a teaser.
No, I saw a trailer just because it's been force fed to me.
Right. So let's just do that. Okay.
No, I mean, the only thing is I've seen scenes with Harry. I thought that was pretty safe to figure that
it does feel like
at least
Harry's
survive
show.
into the first episode.
Right. So without going too strong into predictions, and obviously we're curious where Harry and Cassia will pick up, whether that's literally on the hillsides in Poland or in a broader sense. Lois and Vernon. Do they get married? Does something happen there? Does Vernon go off to fight in the air war and not make it back? Who knows? Tom, where is he? I wrote down Tom and all the young women in Spain because I think that's what's on his radar, unfortunately.
Gregor's. I'm curious.
Gregor's and Jan.
Yep. Jan wants to go fight in the war. Yep. So now that time has like you said, real world time has passed, but I'm not exactly. Actually, that did not look up where we pick up at the start of season 2. So it'll be interesting to see, like, has everyone aged a year or two, or is this literally just months after season 1 ended?
Yeah, they may.
So we'll see.
Certainly, changing actors out has been done before, but it doesn't even necessarily need to be done. We'll see. And then Robina and the baby, I wrote down. Will Robina start to warm up a little bit to her grandchild, or will it always be complicated for her? Who knows?
I think it will be complicated. If there's anything, any character I feel sure about, it's Robina. She just
she is who she is. Huh?
She is who she is. Right. She's been consistent throughout, and she's not in the war zone, so that's probably part of it. Although they may change heading into season 2.
Maybe it is a little more abstract for her.
Yeah,
with
it's
her,
just something happening over yonder.
Mixed sympathies or confused sympathies. It'd be interesting how she takes to things. So we'll find out, and hopefully you'll find out along with us. We'll be back for season 2. You can find all of that to come through WITF, of course, in our area, or if you happen to be listening to us from outside our region, your local PBS station, hit them up. Hopefully you've been enjoying Postscript. We hope you have. If you have questions or comments for us, you can contact us a bunch of ways. Email to postscript@witf.org or just ps@witf.org. You can find us on all the WITF social medias. If you happen to want to watch us for whatever reason, find us on YouTube, the WITF Mosaic channel. You'll find Postscript. You'll find WITF Music. You'll find all kinds of great arts, culture content there that we hope you'll enjoy. If you are enjoying this stuff and you want to help us make more content like this, please visit witf.org/mosaic. A lot of information about the program and ways you can help support this and more. Give a shout out to Aimee Bealer and Jon Ferreras on production. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon. See you for season 2.